Good morning and welcome to Wednesday. Wednesday. 3 syllables. Some say Wednesday. Wednesday. Middle of the week. Hump day. The middle of the work week for those that work Monday through Friday. But it's not actually the middle of the week until tomorrow, Thursday. Those of us that are going from Monday through Sunday on devotions and our meditations in Hebrews. So we're going to jump right in. We're into the 11th chapter, of course, and we've gotten just past Moses. So we've gone back in the time machine into the past, into the book of Genesis. Basically, you can read this in the book of Genesis and into the early chapters of Exodus. But here we go with our meditations in Hebrews, and we're going to look at Hebrews 11, 27 through 28, where it says, by faith he left Egypt. Who did? Moses. When did he leave Egypt? He left Egypt after being exposed for killing a fellow Egyptian, or an adopted Egyptian, since he was actually Hebrew but was brought into Pharaoh's daughter's house. He left Egypt not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who is invisible. Something had happened in Moses. We can look at the earlier verses, and he wanted to be with the people of Israel more than he wanted to be with Egypt. He would opt for their position of servitude over his wealthy position as the adopted son of Pharaoh's daughter. This ostensibly, possibly, could put him in line for the throne of Egypt, the most powerful nation on earth at the time, or certainly rivaled to the rising and falling of Babylon and Assyria. But now he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered. He endured, he kept going. So this faith had him leave Egypt. This faith acted within him to persevere, to preserve him. And this faith also acted for him to be able to see, to catch a glimpse of, to perceive the one who is invisible. Who is that? God, the invisible one. And he has a revelation in the desert at a burning bush, according to Exodus chapter 3, in which he sees a bush that is on fire. And he turns aside to see this sight, especially when it's not consumed. Seeing a bush on fire in the desert was not unusual for Moses. Lightning storms and dry bushes would result in some fires, spontaneous fires. Fire from lightning strikes. This was different. The bush was not consumed. So he comes to the bush and receives a revelation of the invisible God. I will be who I will be. I am who I am. I was who I was, the eternally existent and continuously faithful in all of his attributes, this one that we call Yahweh, Jehovah, Yahweh, this God, the creator of the universe. He saw him who is invisible. This revelation, combined with confidence in this revelation and God's promises and God's nature, even the traditions with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, allowed Moses to persevere. That's activity. Faith translates into actual activity in human life. It translates into endurance. It translates into perseverance. It translates into work. By faith, he kept the Passover. So what happens with the great release from Egypt? When Moses returns after having an encounter with God, he returns to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt. By faith, he kept the Passover. God gave him a revelation that there was something he needed to have all of the people of Israel do. Now, imagine the task of sharing with and convincing 1 point something million people to involve themselves in something they've never done, as if it will be significant and necessary. People are recalcitrant. Sheep are stubborn, and they're stuck to their own ways. And so he has a great task set before him. He comes and he brings this idea of the Passover. In other words, look at the idea here. There is going to be a death angel that is going to go through the land. Any firstborn of human or animal is prone to be dealt with by the death angel. And the only alternative is to celebrate the Passover and take the blood of the lamb and sprinkle it upon the doorposts and the lintel, much in the shape, doorpost, lintel, much in the shape of a plus, but a doorway is typically rectangular, mimicking very much the shape of the cross. But more importantly, speaking of covenant, one of the ancient forms of the letter Tav in Hebrew is, that's the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, is covenant. It's a T, a Tav. It's in the shape of a cross, basically. This might sound strange, but for centuries in ancient times, Jewish graves were marked with the cross, the sign of the covenant. That had to change after 33 AD. That was changed. So by faith he kept the Passover and the application of blood, this sign of the covenant, so that the destroyer of the firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. There's only one thing. It was the sign, it was the mark of God that kept them safe, that kept them, had them be spared. What did that become? That was an act of faith. The people had to trust Moses. They had to trust that Moses was hearing from God, the God of Israel. They involved themselves in this very specific activity that was foreign to them. So they all had to adopt it. And yet what happens? Exactly that. They listen and heed the voice of Moses. He has already been used to perform multiple miracles. He's been authenticated by God. He keeps the Passover, instructs them how to keep the Passover. They all do it. And as a result, zero of the firstborn of Israel are lost. Zero. Because why? Because Moses believed and they trusted Moses because of faith. So faith had him keeping the Passover, and faith resulted in sparing the firstborn. Faith, a powerful, powerful activity where every human on earth can do it. Every human on earth believes, has confidence in, and trusts people, places, and things. We do. We do it all day, every day, all day long. There's no such thing as a person who has no faith. Doesn't happen. We're much more like the man in Caesarea Philippi. Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. There's areas where I believe and areas where I struggle. And here's where most people struggle. Believing God, the Word of God, trusting God, leaning and trusting upon the Lord and not leaning to their own understanding. It is the direction of their faith. It's in whom their faith is placed and to what end their faith operates. When they encounter the Word of God, they have then before them the potential, an opportunity that they need to take to trust Him and to allow that to result in activity in their life. That is the activity of faith in God. And here's what it does. Makes all the difference. The Egyptians had faith in their idols. It failed them. The Israelites had faith in what Moses said, and it spared every one of them. Faith gets it done. Faith in God, God kind of confidence, gets it done every time. God kind of confidence. May this be a day where you discover a new level of the God kind of confidence, placing your confidence, your trust in God, and then acting upon that. Maybe even working on something because of faith. Faith gets it done. And may it get done in your life today as you continue on the journey. Lord bless you. We'll see you tomorrow as we move on and finish out Hebrews chapter 11.